What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of Denmark and Marsh. I am Dylan Denmark. That is Graham Marsh. Nice, cool day. You know, when the hoodies are out in Florida, that means that the temperatures have now reached below 70 degrees, and it's time to freak out. Although this is perfect weather. Shorts and a hoodie.
Yeah. Literally, like, what is it right now? It's like, I think it's like 50.
Woke up 58.
Yeah, it's 55 right now.
48. About 48.
Yeah, but that's perfect weather. This time of year, I love October. So October is my favorite month of the year. I don't know about you, but I love October because all football all the time, high school going on, college going on, NFL going on. There's just football on constantly. And here in Florida, we haven't felt cool temperatures since like March. You always get I always call it the day. There's always like the day, and it's always in October, where you just wake up randomly and like it's finally cooler.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? There's it was 2 days ago. It was
where nobody's looking at the weather, and then they walk outside like, oh, let me go outside and grab a hoodie real quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like my favorite day of the year. Living in Florida when it's just hot majority of the time, and I love living in Florida. Okay, I lived in Nashville 4 years when it got really like truthfully cold for a while, and that's not even like big boy cold, like way up north or anything. That I hate really, really cold weather, constant cold weather. That sucks.
Yeah,
but
I can't do that.
But knowing we live in Florida, knowing that we do have the long duration of heat, that day when you get that cooler feel is like, that's like my favorite day of the year. I love it so much. And that was like 2 days ago.
Yes, it was right after the hurricane.
Yep.
It got cool
real
quick. Graham, on a scale of 1 to 138, what are your odds of Florida winning on Saturday?
138?
Yes. 137?
No. 60.
Yeah. It's my thing. They have so many injuries, man. And I know injuries are not an excuse. It shouldn't be. I mean, the running back position, you don't know if Montrell Johnson's going to play, questionable. The injuries came out last night, injury report. Tryon Webb's questionable. You're pretty much going to be relying on Ball, who's healthy. And then it's like, geez, like if one of those guys, if something happens to them and you have to rely on Ball, not saying he can't get the job done, but I would feel a lot more better going into this game that they can win the game with a healthy Montrell Johnson, Tryon Webb.
Yeah, I agree. At least one of them. Although, we've been saying for a while that it's probably time for Montrell to not get as much of a lion's share of the carries as he's been getting. Part of this is about pass blocking and whatnot as well. And, you know, running the right routes and in the passing game and stuff like that, and kind of just generally knowing what you're doing. I'm not saying Ball doesn't. I haven't seen anything to show that he doesn't know what he's doing, but just that experience and that veteran presence helps. I don't know, man. I kind of view it the opposite way now. I hear what you're saying, and I definitely think not having that experience in the field when you look at Johnson might not play, when you look at the fact that Mertz is done for the year, like that objectively does probably hurt them in the short term, but I look at it as a positive because I look at it as, okay, now the future of your program for a lot of different guys are going to get an opportunity to really go out there and show what they got and gain the experience that they need to be ready to go in the future. Because this season wasn't going anywhere in the first place. I think we all agree with that. And Mertz has been a great Gator. And I think on Saturday night, if he doesn't get hurt, I think they win that game. We talked about this on Saturday. But now it's DJ Lagway time for him to get experience. Look at the running back position. It's Jaden Ball time for him to keep getting experience, and Jacoby Jackson. And I'm cool now with just kind of because of where we're at in this season and sort of what our aspirations are or are not for the rest of the year. And we kind of all agree that the coach is a dead man walking. I'm at the point now where it's like, you know what? It's not the worst thing to just let the young guys play and show what they got.
Yeah, and now also you have, in addition, Marcus Burks. He's out. Not that you're relying on him, but that's another guy. And then Austin Barber's also questionable.
But Burke has been out.
Yeah, he's been out.
He got hurt in the Mississippi State game on that touchdown he caught.
Really? That was when he got hurt? I missed that. Yeah, I know he didn't play the last couple of weeks. I think the magic number for this game is going to be 20. If Florida can get to 20 points, I think they're going to be in a good chance to win the game. You look at Kentucky; they lost 20-13 to Vandy last week. The week before, they beat Ole Miss 20-17. Remember, they owned the time possession. Ole Miss didn't have the ball at all.
That was in Oxford too.
Yep. Georgia game was 13-12.
They should have beaten Georgia.
Yes, and then they lost to South Carolina on some. I guess they didn't show up that day. 31-6.
So this first game of the year.
Yes, that was their first SEC game.
Yeah.
That was week 2. So you have it all. Offense that's limited. They want to control the clock. Florida is back at home. The first 2 games outside of Stanford, when you look at the Miami and A&M game, they didn't play well, particularly at home. But I think me and you and everybody would agree that this team's a lot different. And obviously, it's going to be now with Lagway getting all the snaps under at quarterback. But yeah, it's going to be a low scoring game. It'll be a muddy 2017. And like we say every year, like Kentucky's lost their last 2. They look pretty good, but Kentucky always looks like I don't know. I was going to say Georgia, but something like that every time.
Brock Vandagriff is going to look like Pat Mahomes on Saturday.
It'll be whoever the running back is.
Yeah, they're going to
running back's going to have like 280 yards in the first half.
Yeah, he's going to look like Walter Payton or something. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing too, and this is probably my biggest concern in this game, I think Kentucky, and I think this is part of the reason that, in all seriousness, I think this is part of the reason that Kentucky has had their number in the last couple of years in the Napier era and even dating back and dipping into the Mullen era a little bit. What Florida's been bad in general, so they've been a bad matchup for a lot of teams. But in the last couple of years, where they've really struggled is on defense, and they have played better in games that are higher scoring games, right? They've had better chances to win in games that are more like, 40-something to 30-something or 30-something to 20-something. Kentucky plays the opposite brand of football. They play ugly. You're going to have limited possessions in this game. You're going to look up in the third quarter and you're like, damn, feels like we had the ball like 5 times or whatever.
And that's how Florida got beat against A&M.
Correct.
It was like they had 3 drives, 18 plays in the first half. And when that happens, you can't get a rhythm.
Correct.
So you kind of have to, knowing what they do, you have to kind of play what they do and control the ball a little bit and run the ball. Hopefully you get 3 plays a clip rather than take a chunk play for 20 or 30.
And the problem is,
I don't know if Florida has that option.
The way that Kentucky beats you and the way that Kentucky beats a team like Florida, who is clearly not very good, they're going to limit those possessions. Probably both teams are going to have long drives because this doesn't feel like a game that's going to have a lot of explosive plays. From an outsider's perspective, if you are not a Kentucky or a Florida fan, this is not going to be a fun game to watch.
No.
This is not a get your popcorn ready type of game. I believe Georgia and Texas kick off 15 minutes before this game. Ain't nobody going to be watching this game that's not a Kentucky or Gator fan.
No.
But I believe this game is going to be pretty boring to watch, not a ton of explosive plays, kind of a rock fight type of game, kind of a, 3 to 4 yards a carry, and every once in a while throw it to pick up first downs on 3rd and 5+ type of thing. And Kentucky wins that type of game, right? And because I think what's going to happen is both teams are going to have limited possessions because they're both going to be controlling the clock. They're both going to be on the field for a long time. Kentucky, when they have had success this year, the difference between the games where they've gotten killed, like the South Carolina game 31-6, or the games where they had Georgia on the rope, should have beaten them, or the games where, they beat Ole Miss and what have you. Like the difference in winning and losing for them this year, because every game they kind of play the same game, has been when they finish. When they finish and score touchdowns, and even for them, their defense is so good, even for them, a lot of times just getting points, just getting field goals is a win. And Florida showed us last week. They leave points on the board all the time. So that can't happen. If Florida is leaving points on the board just like they did against Tennessee last week, they're gonna lose, and they're probably gonna lose by at least 7 or 10. They won't get blown out in this game because that's not the type of game that's about to get played. It's too ugly of a game for someone to win by a lot. But it's going to feel like third quarter, it's going to feel like Kentucky's been in the driver's seat the whole game if Florida is not finishing drives.
It's weird. I didn't watch the game. I just peeked at the score for like most people did for the Vandy, Kentucky. Kentucky, start running back, number 0, had 5 yards of carry. The quarterback had 4 yards of carry, and then they had other guys. They had positive run plays, but in the passing game, they were 15 for 25 for 158. So, Vandergriff is kind of limited from the little bit I've seen. So we'll see how that goes. Graham, when you look at, all off season, we kind of looked at this season as a 2 halves. It was, you have the first half and then you have the month of November. And we all kind of looked at it as, okay, if you can win your home games or maybe lose one home game and then lose to Tennessee, it would look pretty good considering, all the factors. Last year, Florida's 5-2 going to the bye before they play Georgia. Right now, Florida's 3-3, and everybody would agree that this is a coin flip. I think Florida's a 1-point favorite, which means like
they were. It's the money shifted a bit since like yesterday morning.
Okay.
Now Kentucky's a 1-point favorite.
Okay, so
it's a pick'em game.
Yeah. If it's a 1-point game, it's a pick'em.
If people that are betting on it right now are taking money lines, they're not taking spreads.
Yeah. You don't like to look at the record and say, Florida's gotten worse. And I'm not going to talk about, my stance has been the same with Napier and what it's been. Florida has looked better in the last couple of weeks than they did in the first couple of weeks as compared to what they did against Miami and A&M. So for a long shot for you making a bowl game, you win this game, you beat Florida State, and then you find a way to beat, it's not going to be Georgia or Texas. It's going to be between LSU and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
If that's the one thing you want to look forward to. I'm not one of those people that always talk about, the 15 extra practices that you get for the bowl game. I really don't know how much of an advantage that is for teams, for young guys, because Florida's already playing their young guys right now. Like, it's not like they have depth. They're like, we have all these guys that are really good. And we have these backups that are going to be really good next year. It's not like that.
Especially in today's world with the portal and how many guys are going to be leaving your team and how many guys are going to become, even for good teams, how many guys are going to be leaving your team and how many guys are going to be coming in. And just the general nature of how much rosters flip year to year now. I agree with you. I don't think it's that big a deal.
You mentioned something before the show that I have not seen. So I'll let you take this away.
Yeah, this is kind of the second half of the podcast we're dipping into here. We wanted to preview Kentucky first, but I've seen on Twitter, a lot of you guys that watch us are probably Gator fans on Twitter that are following along with kind of the general coaching search that isn't yet, but will be probably coming here in about a month or so. And if you're on Reddit or wherever you consume news, you've probably kind of seen this guy. Stuff. I'm not, but
no, I'm not either.
Kind of seen stuff pick up. But anyways, Kurt Cignetti is gaining a little bit of traction.
Who?
Kurt Cignetti, Indiana's head coach.
Okay, I know that guy. The guy wins. Google him.
Correct. He is. He's gaining a little bit of traction just in Gator, not like real, not like actually being linked to the job or anything right now, but just in kind of Gator fandom and Gator Twitter, just sort of kind of peeping sort of what he's about, how he conducts himself, what he says, his philosophy on things, and kind of being like, that's pretty interesting. I like that. I don't like that, or whatever. So, kind of seeing that a little bit in the last couple of days on Twitter, Dylan, I want to just kind of open up the conversation to you in a more general sense. Let's assume, for the here and now, just for the sake of this conversation, let's assume that Napier does indeed get shown the door at some point this year. I don't know if it's after this game, heading into Georgia. I don't know if it's going to be the Florida State game or whatever. Let's assume he's just not the coach in 2025. Okay, so obviously Florida will need to pivot and hire a new coach. We have talked a decent amount about Lane Kiffin on this podcast so far. Let's talk about it a little bit more. First question I have for you, is it Lane or bust?
Yes.
Okay. Go on.
It's just, think about this. What other jobs are potentially going to be open that are big jobs at the end of the year? Arkansas might let go of their guy, Sam Pittman. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but that might happen.
But Arkansas ain't Florida.
Correct. Oregon's going to keep their guy. Michigan's going to keep their guy. Ohio State. I don't even know who the teams that are disappointing. USC, but they're not getting rid of Lincoln Riley.
That's a good point. I haven't really thought about that.
There's no other big job that is going to be available that's right now. Miami's not getting rid of their guy. Florida State's not getting rid of their guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really thought about that. That Florida is like the program right now that's going to need a coach.
Yes.
Okay, so that's part of it. So Florida will be, in theory, the most attractive program in need of a coach, right? When it's coaching search time. So, okay, that's one part of the conversation. The other part of the conversation, and I agree with you, by the way, I'm just asking you this to kind of get us through this, like, point by point here. Are you of the belief that Lane Kiffin, no questions asked, is the best candidate no matter what?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, it's one and then a big gap between number two.
Okay. Explain your thoughts.
Like,
because again, I agree, but I just for the sake of the conversation.
Eli Drinkwitz, the Jed Fish, if he wants to leave Washington, the guy, what's his name again, Indiana?
Kurt Cignetti. I don't know why you.
I don't know why.
You cannot remember this guy's name for some reason. Kurt Cignetti.
Cignetti. Let me write this down.
Cignetti.
Cignetti. No, I mean, Lane's proven. I think everybody, regardless of if you're a Gator fan or not, would fully be on board that Lane Kiffin comes to Florida next year and they're at their worst an 8-4 team, probably 9-3, and then get you to 10-2 next year, regardless of if Lagway stays or whoever their quarterback is, because you know Lane's going to bring guys in. And it's the sexy hire. Not that sexy hires matter once you get into the games on Saturday, but I mean, what Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss, and I know they've lost 2 games, so they'll probably finish at 9-3. They might finish at 10-2. He's done things that have never happened at Ole Miss before. And Ole Miss is not like a top-tier job. Everybody takes that job to eventually get a better job at the end of the day.
It's a stepping stone job.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I think he's the first coach ever to have like back-to-back 10-win seasons or something along those lines. And it was a couple of years ago, nobody wanted to touch him. Like, Saban brought him in as a coordinator. I was like, oh, you can't, don't get around that guy. And he changed his complete persona, goes to Florida Atlantic, gets the head coaching job. Has turned that around when he was there. They're not as good. Goes to Ole Miss, has make them really, really good consistently. And he's gotten the most out of that job. I don't think, what he's done the last 2 years, you can keep continuing to do that, but it's not going to be a situation the next couple of years where they're going to go 11-0 or undefeated. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. I agree. To me, there's obviously two things have to be true for this to come to fruition. Well, 3 things. First, Billy Napier has to get fired, obviously, but we're assuming that's going to happen. We believe that's going to happen. So after that, 2 things have to happen for this marriage to ultimately come to fruition with Lane Kiffin in Florida. And it's pretty simple, obviously. A, he has to want the job, and B, Florida has to want him. Right? Pretty simple.
2 sides have to come together.
Correct. So
that's how contracts work.
So, A, and I want to piggyback off of what you were just saying, would he want the job? I believe yes. I believe the point you just made is the biggest number one reason why. He's gotten everything he can out of the Ole Miss job. I believe that's the statement that matters. Because you hear a lot of people saying stuff like, why would Lane ever leave Ole Miss?
Those people have no idea what they're talking about.
Correct. Why would Lane ever leave Ole Miss? He walks on water at Ole Miss. What he does is just fine. They worship him over there. He's a god over there. Everything's great. He's got everything made over there. They'll never run him out of town. They're going to love him, blah, blah, blah. Well, you and I have talked about this before. That, logically makes sense, but it never works out that way.
No.
Coaches that are at those programs where they quote-unquote walk on water, they quote-unquote have it made, why would they go to a bigger program with bigger expectations where they might get run out of town in 3 years? Those guys always end up leaving for the bigger program. They always do. Right now, there's two guys I can think of that have not done that. And it's PJ Fleck at Minnesota, because they had kind of some hype, but even they've kind of dipped a little bit. I think he sort of missed his window. I think that's kind of why he's not anywhere. I don't know if that's because I think if Ohio State came calling, PJ Fleck's going to be the Ohio State coach. You know what I mean?
For my time.
But the one guy that I can like point to with this that I think has genuinely like stated his spot is Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State.
And then Ferentz at Iowa. Those are the two.
Yeah, I guess. But Ferentz at Iowa, I think
He's never had the option that I can remember to take a bigger job.
A big-time program is not going to want to touch Kirk Ferentz's offense with a 10-foot pole.
No.
Mike Gundy's the main guy to me that I think like a bigger program would take him and would love him, and he's like, I'm good here. But that's rare. These guys normally leave. I remember one of the classic ones when James Franklin was rolling at Vanderbilt. I was living in Nashville at the time. Every Vanderbilt fan was telling me, "Why he's never gonna leave." You know, Vandy is thrilled to have 9 wins a year. They're gonna be so happy. Why would he ever leave that? Like a year later, he's Penn State's head coach.
This dude coaching you. This is Lane Kiffin's a guy that's coached for the Raiders, Tennessee Volunteers, and USC. And I know it hasn't worked out of those three. Or I mean, he left Tennessee to go to USC. You're not satisfied of being at Ole Miss.
Also, everyone would agree that Lane has a gigantic ego. Lane loves Lane, right?
Yeah.
That means that he wants to win at the highest level. And the Florida side of things, last thing is we'll wrap up. On the Florida side of things, Lane fits the exact persona, and this is the main reason that I want Lane. He fits the exact persona of coaches that have succeeded at Florida.
Yes, Spurrier most definitely. Speaking his mind.
He's cocky. He talks his mess. He doesn't want to beat you by 10. He wants to beat you by 100.
Right.
He's not he wants to bury you and embarrass you, and it's points, it's offense, it's tempo, it's explosiveness, and it's being cocky and rubbing your face in it. That's how Florida has won national championships. It's not been the kind of Georgia and Bama sort of like defense, run the ball, win in the trenches, physicality type of way of the pass. I know Bama kind of got more explosive at the end of Saban's era.
Because of Lane Kiffin.
Right. But those programs historically have succeeded with great defense and great run play and that type of thing. Florida scores points when they're rolling, when they're hot.
Agreed. Yeah, and last thing I'll say, Lane Kiffin's changed his persona. I don't know if you've read I think Chris Lowe wrote the article on ESPN about he's given up alcohol the last couple of years. Like, he knows that he's trying to change his image because he was always the cocky guy. He's became a little more mature. He's given up alcohol. Like, he knows that a big-time job is coming. So, that's that.
And he idolizes Steve Spurrier, by the way.
That also helps.
It does.
So, all right, we'll give y'all a post-game reaction, 11 o'clock, hopefully. Can we just run the ball every play so the game can end fast? Because there's nothing worse than having to stay up till 11:45, then turn around and watch the Jags.
I don't mind a nighttime kick. I like night games, but 7:45 is aggressive, dude.
That is killer.
What's wrong with 7?
Freaking TV networks and ESPN, SEC network. That's dollar bills, y'all. We'll see y'all Saturday night.